Whose election in the 1980s sent political shockwaves all throughout the state and for the country, for that matter, has now died. Pat Swindall died in his sleep Tuesday night. In 1984, Swindall defeated a longtime Democratic Congressman, Elliott Levitas, to win Georgia's 4th congressional seat. But then he was caught negotiating with a drug money launderer and lost his seat in 1988. The next year, he was convicted of perjury, spent 1 year in prison, about 8.5 months. There is no word yet on the cause of death.